Welcome to Automate Yourself, where automation is your biggest career opportunity in the age of AI. I'm your host, Dina Levitan. Today's guest is Elena Luneva, a 20-year CPO and product leadership veteran who just went independent. And here's what she figured out. Constraints don't limit you, they make you more creative. She keeps coming back to this one phrase that you're the director of your own movie. You can make it a tragedy or a comedy, but the person in your way is you. In this conversation, we talk about what it really takes to own your career when AI is changing everything. Let's go. Welcome, Elena Luneva. Elena has spent 20 years as a product leader at companies including Nextdoor, OpenTable, BrainTrust, and she decided to go independent in 2025. She was ready for something different. She's now focused on executive coaching and coursework, teaching leaders how to use AI to automate themselves so they can focus on strategy and decision making. And she also does fractional and advisory work. She teaches 2 courses on Maven, developing CPO level skills and AI powered communication. And she writes long form on her Substack. Welcome to the show.
Happy to be here. Thanks, Dina.
Let's start with your background. You've had quite a journey from product leader to independent operator, and now you're an AI thought leader. Can you give us a 60-second version of your path?
Sounds good. Yes, I've always been attracted to that combination of translation between building and the business. So becoming a product leader has fulfilled that. So I've worked at companies like BrainTrust, OpenTable, Liquid Space, Nextdoor, BlackRock, and always across industries building for our users. And what I've spent the second half of my career as a VP, GM, CPO is really figuring out how to take what we build and accelerate the business, find our buyers, and really grow the business that way. And so what I wanted to do is see if I could teach that beyond my team and have other leaders benefit from what I learned on the job. And also as the AI wave was coming through, I really knew that I can do much more myself. I was able to do that at companies. And so I wanted to see if I can figure that out on my own as well.
Nice. Having spent most of your career as a product leader, what was that world like for you?
Yeah. I was always really interesting. Each time at each company was a different industry, a different set of users. The consistency was there was somebody who had a problem and we would solve it for them. The opportunity was being on top of technology and where was technology going so that we can catch that trend and create a solution that was forward facing. So for example, at Liquid Space was on the commercial real estate industry space. And we were thinking about how does flexible work in the future? Can people rent space differently than getting into a 5-year lease? And so a lot of this practice from people's perspectives wasn't even possible. But through technology, through mobile payments, through some of the advances that were happening, through flexible leases that we created, we were able to innovate across technology, across legal to make something like this possible before it became something that people even did after COVID, where the hybrid work, flexible work was more of a thing. And so what really attracted me to product management is that combination of seeing where the future is going, working with the context of the person and the person's problem, and then trying to understand how that moves the business forward at that intersection. So I really enjoyed being a product manager, being close to the build and being close to the business as well.
Nice. That's a lot of the similar reasons that I went into product management as well. When did you first start noticing that automation or AI might change what you were doing?
That's a great question. Product management just hasn't been around for that long. So it's only been a thing for about 20 years. I started my career as a business analyst, which was product management. You just didn't have user research or design. You were expected to do everything through terrible tools like Balsamic. And so through these 20 years, we've had flavors of product management. We had the data PMs, we had the technical PMs, we had the growth PMs, we had the general managers, and now it feels like a new flavor of product managers with a set of tools which enable us to do what is the majority of our work? And that is translation of customer problems to what is the spec, how do we build it, and how do we take it to market? So I really first noticed the AI trend way back before it was even called AI. We were doing image recognition. We were trying to merchandise various accessories that a person could rent in a space, for example. So we looked to see if, ML could be used for that. At Nextdoor, similar, we had various people posting within a feed, and Nextdoor is a local social network. And we tried to figure out what the intent was from the content from that was in there, and pause people if they were saying something offensive, or if they were a local business, route them to a better experience where they could set up their profile and connect to neighbors. So the technology advancements has been going on for way more than 10 years. When it really hit me, I think, was at BrainTrust. I was the chief product and technology officer there and got a mandate from the CEO of, hey, we're not hiring any more people, so figure it out. And there's this AI wave. Can we get ahead of it and build for the recruiting space a full suite of tools? So really, it was a double fold mandate of, can you make growth? Can you make go to market? Can you make product more efficient through what we have today? And so we really started looking at SEO, at content creation, at spec generation, at like how people were doing queries, to see what is taking us a lot of time and where can we add AI to enable teams to stay as slim as they were, but be much more effective so we can continue to grow the business. But then the second really fun opportunity was working with Claude models, with voice harnesses, with transcription, to see if we can get to a voice AI agent that would do the recruiting. So there was all the way we needed to structure the presentation, the go to market, the pitches was in a, hey, we know what we can do and we'll definitely deliver that. But then there's all of this R&D around the impossible, and can we make that impossible possible with the technology that existed?
Right, and once you started diving in and seeing what was possible, that kind of opened up your aperture, it sounds like.
Absolutely. Like, I could see what I could do as a person in a way that I just couldn't previously. I could see what my team could do with the tools that were available, and how probably every 6 months, what wasn't possible previously. So at the time, for example, spec writing, it just was a waste of time. But now it's possible. Things like designing interfaces, wasn't possible, and now it is much more close to what can be done. So that constant learning within myself, within the team, really pushed us. And I think the constraints of, hey, you can't hire a teammate, really made us be much more open and creative with how we leverage the tools that were available, and then pushed ourselves to continue to look outside, talk to other companies, talk to other peers to see what they were doing.
Well, yeah, I totally agree with the phrase that constraints breed innovation, and they kind of force us to have to think in new and exciting ways. So it's cool that you were able to take advantage of that, look at it as an opportunity, and do something new and different.
Absolutely.
So at the Product Leader Summit, you gave a really cool talk about what managers are spending their time on and how you're using AI to help. Would love to hear more about the insight there and what you're working on.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a bit difficult for people to hear the truth, I think. But at the beginning of the sold out talk, I asked the question, hey, do you spend 60% of your time in meetings? And I think everybody, or the majority of people, raised their hand. So it's pretty soul crushing that the majority of the time is spent in meeting is spent in rehashing information rather than the building. So there's a really strong push of around vibe coding, around building. But the dirty truth is the majority of companies, managers and above, and frankly, a lot of PMs are just spending a lot of their time in meetings rehashing information. And my course was really about, how do you leverage AI to rehash that information for you? So, A, you're in fewer meetings, people are much more updated, and you can spend your time on decision making, on strategy. The premise is, hey, you're creating, your Slack message, your email, your deck, your presentation, your PRD. If you start with, hey, here's my idea, here's the constraints, here's the content, here's what we're doing, you can then leverage AI and build an AI system to create cuts of content for you as the first piece. And then on top of that, you also have various stakeholders within your company. You have your executive suite, you have your finance person, you have your CEO, and they care about different things. And they tend to be different than what your team cares about, perhaps the execution, the deadlines, the other constraints that are put on them. So you can leverage and build a system like a custom GPT, perhaps an agent, where you can then run the content that you're putting out there through the lens of your audience. Because frequently messages don't land because you're trying to think about, hey, what am I trying to say? Versus who is my audience and what do they care about? And how do I put my message in a way that they can hear it and then absorb it and understand what they need to take away from it? So that was really, really the concept that we talked through.
And each of those different audiences, as you mentioned, they have different concerns and they want the information at a different granularity, different kind of
Yeah,
perspective. And so it makes a lot of sense that if you're actually systematizing how you're thinking about the communication and who the listener is, you can actually do it better yourself or you can have AI to help. Because I think that a lot of people don't even realize that they are doing that kind of subconsciously.
exactly.
So you went independent this year and you started exploring AI, building courses. What were you able to do? What was your philosophy when you started doing that exploration?
Yeah. So I think at first it was just really trying to understand my skill set. What am I good at and what value can I provide as a solo versus as a part of the company? And the first opportunity that I landed on was, hey, I've been a product operator for over 20 years. There's a lot of teachers that have been ICs that have built the product, but there's not as many at the VP, at the CPO level who really think about, hey, you've built a thing. Now, how do you get someone to buy it? And how do you build it in a way that moves the business forward? So your financial aspects of your product build are really accounted for. And so the first course I started with was develop CPO level skills, where I focused on those areas of, hey, what's the go to market? How do you think about the P&L of your product, of your business, and build things in a way that are accretive? And then the last areas of focus were on how do you convince your executive team to invest in you and by that, the product? And how do you work through all the influence nets that you need to, and you spend the majority of your time on in a company to get the buy-in and to get the resources and people to follow you? So really codifying the things I've learned by doing that I wish somebody would teach me, although I've had plenty of mentors who have, so that people don't need to spend as much time on. And so there would be something for the directors of product to think about, how do I cross this next chasm of my career? And so that got traction and enabled me to continue and get that good feeling under my wings of, hey, maybe we're onto something. And then I moved into really writing about some of these opportunities, whether it's managing a team and having one-on-ones to how do you leverage AI to get customer insights from sales recordings, as an example, to give people just another set of tools and skills that they can use in their day to day and based on the things I know and things I've done in my past. One of the things I've caught on is communication. I think everybody is some level of working on it. So I launched a new course that's focused on how do you leverage AI to help you both communicate internally, but also represent your company and practice and get better at that professional communication. And the really interesting part to me is, the CPO course is all primarily product managers. In this new one, it's surgeons, it's people doing communication in the office and the CEO, it's product people, it's builders. So I'm almost, who is my ICP? Is it everybody that needs to communicate? You and I know that's a little too broad, but it seems to be it's getting resonance with other folks as well. So I'm excited
That's
for that
cool, and as
trajectory.
you expand and work with different kinds of people, you get to learn about all their pain points and ways you can help them.
Yeah, yeah,
Something
absolutely.
you mentioned earlier really spoke to me about how you were leaning into your strengths and kind of using the pieces of your background that you wanted to emphasize. Something I've noticed in this AI world is that self awareness becomes even more important. Like knowing where you can add value and where you can rely on the AI to kind of supplement,
Mm,
fill gaps. That's something that I think people don't really talk about that enough. Would you like to share
yeah.
anything about your experience with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's this perception that we all have AI magic wands, and so we're just going to wish everything into existence. And it's just not at that level yet. So people are like, do you use AI to write your Substacks? And I'm like, well, I use it to edit it, I use it to help me. But I did try once. I'm like, here's my concept. Can you write the Substack for me? And it wrote something. And I think I spent 3 hours trying to fix that. And then I'm just like, no, this is just, I can't. The garbage was real. I'm working with 20 years of operating knowledge, and that's what I'm packaging in different ways, just like Dina is. And so, what AI is good at is, I would say, packaging or cutting content. It's not good at what is the piece that we really need to convey. And so, for people thinking about this, it really needs to start with you, with your voice, with your personality, and getting that across. And then the second is I'm working with different audiences. Like I've worked with instructors at the Air Force to an AI startup. And so the knowledge or the competence of, or like the awareness of the tools and the different audiences is different. So then I need to think about like myself and how do I present something in a way that people can absorb and make it really actionable. So the really actionable is extremely important for me. So I just don't want to talk about this is what an LLM is and here's the theory about it, but this is what an LLM is. Hence, this is why it hallucinates. This is how you think about it. This is how you create your prompt. This is where you fit in an agent. So depending on where people are on that trajectory, it can be useful for them. So I think that is really important. Understanding what you bring to the table, understanding the constraints of the tools you're working with, and the context of your audience and how to make the information that I'm conveying relevant and actionable for them.
Totally. And as I've been doing AI trainings and workshops, one of the most important things that I'm seeing is if you can help someone in the first half hour see how AI can help them in their job, they're going to be so much more excited about the remainder of the session, what they
Yeah.
can do, and kind of get really excited about it.
Yeah, I had this one person who's like, "Oh my gosh, this used to take me 3 weeks. It just did it in 20 minutes." And I'm like, "Are you happy?" I hope so. But they were bought in at that point, so it was great to see that reaction.
Totally. So this has been quite a shift for you. Have you faced any unexpected challenges or any moments where you doubted the direction you were going?
Yes, I think almost every day. With a company, you have a level of air cover. As a product person, you can focus on the build and hitting your metrics and building out your team. It's a very different scope and one that over 20 years I got comfortable with. I could join any company as a CPO and I'm sure I would add value and we would grow the business. At this point, it's a level of playbook. Going solo, you don't have any of that. So really the product is yourself. And it gave me a lot more appreciation for the need for marketing, for go to market, for business development, which I do not know how to do. And it was all very still is very new to me. That shift, that learning, that getting out of my comfort zone, getting out of the house, networking, creating content on LinkedIn that's thought leadery but salesy, and getting that balance still, is hard and feels cringy. So I'm really focusing on what feels good. So writing feels really good, teaching feels really good, connecting to people feels really good, and then trying to figure out where the sales part feels more natural. And then I think the ups and downs. So sometimes a contract lands in your lap, and then the next month is you figure out, you're like, wait, I don't know how to make that repeatable because they found me. So I can do more great content and hopefully pray that somebody else finds me. But how do I get more of that is something in this 0 to 1 stage. It continues to be a learning experience. So it's very different than in a company building a 0 to 1 product. Like at Nextdoor, it's a social network. It has hundreds of millions of users. You launch it, someone will use it.
Right.
But regardless of how accomplished you were in your professional career, that only a very small part of that, and that's the product piece, translates to, I don't know, your whatever you want to call
Your entrepreneur lifestyle.
entrepreneur lifestyle, where you don't have the 100 million people that you can broadcast that you've done something to. And so it's both really trying, but I'm a person who I think thrives in the learning. So if anything, the reason I made this shift is because I know how to do the other role. I don't know how to do this role. And that's what keeps it really fresh and exciting.
Absolutely, and when we talked earlier, you mentioned, everyone's doing this vibe coding, and it turns out that the go-to-market piece, buying it, that's a really hard piece, and I think
Yeah.
as you've called out, that's the piece that's gonna be most critical as building becomes more and more accessible to everybody. So I would love to hear how you're thinking about leaning into that going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. So I see two trends, and that's the CPTO trend and the CPMO trend. So really product moving more technical and more builder, where like I did 20 years ago, but with better tools, they're now more part of the building cycle. They're prototyping, they're designing, they're maybe shipping code. The other trend that I'm seeing, and I'm kind of drumming more excitement for it, is the business part. So really the CPMO track, the GM track that I've been on of what is it that you're building? Because now anybody can build anything. And we're hearing stories of product market fit disappearing overnight with the Lovables and others of the world. More people can build things faster. The fact that I can be a solopreneur right now is because I can build things faster, build from like a different perspective than an app. And so what matters more is you're still going to have a fixed amount of people in the world that can potentially buy your thing. So how do you find them? How do you convince them to buy it? How do you price it in a way that you still as a business make money? Somebody needs to be really good at answering those questions. And I've talked to talked to so many people, see it in Slacks of like, hey, I built a thing, which is great, but then what?
Yeah, how do you bring it to the market? How do you get adoption of this really cool thing that you built? Which has been the
Exactly.
problem for in tech for eons, right? Like that's the hard part.
Exactly. Exactly. And there's plenty of AI tools that can help you with figuring out who your ICP is, leveraging AI on top of your sales calls, on top of your customer success calls, to then figuring out how does that fit into your product roadmap? How does that fit into your product strategy? How do you then turn that into AI enabled sales enablement so then your go to market teams can cleanly talk about what you're actually building in a way that now that you understand who your prospects and customers are could understand. And so that loop is what I work on with clients, what I teach in some of the courses that I do, because I think not as many people are talking about it as they are about the building.
So this journey has taken you in a lot of different directions. As you've started teaching on Maven, writing on Substack, doing more of the coaching, what are you thinking in terms of the future of your career and what's possible?
Yeah, it's exciting to be at this 0 to 1, so I'm thinking about that 1 to 10. So I really wanna get more into the building aspects, so I've taken on fractional opportunities to work with businesses to think through both the AI enablement of how they build product and the shifting the products themselves to either be AI native or have the focus on really the detailed funnel opportunities that all companies need. And then I want to figure out how to really partner with other thought leaders, other creators, because I see that I'm learning from them. I just had a chance to talk to Yui Zhao, who does a lot of the executive coaching as well. And so that helps us sort of increase our reach and really deliver the things that we're talking about to other people thinking through it. So, yeah, I want to continue on the course trajectory, think about other courses to some of those will be coming out in Q1, continuing to coach, advise, and work with companies.
Yeah, a lot of that partnership, collaboration, like as I've gone independent, I've realized even more how important that is. So
Yeah.
totally appreciate that. And I think it's a great approach. So for people who are listening who either feel stuck or worried about what's going to happen in the future with AI, what's some advice you'd give them?
I think some context is people think that a full-time job is safe. I think at least in Silicon Valley, that is no longer a true statement. There's very few people that are in jobs for a long time. The second is the person stopping you is you. So really thinking about yourself as the director of your own movie. Like you can make it a tragedy, you can make it a comedy, but the person that's in the way is really you. As Dina mentioned, constraints get you very creative. I'm not wishing on anyone that they get fired from a job, but can you have that mental exercise for yourself? Like, hey, I get fired tomorrow. What happens? It's going to take you a long time, let's say 3 months, probably longer, to find your next role. So, what happens? And can you get creative about that? So, the way that I work right now, if something happens to a client, a student, there is still a foundation from a portfolio sense there. The other piece that, hey, this is a different way of working. There's a lot of BD, there's a lot of go to market, which most people don't want to do. And I totally get that. But if you want to continue to work traditionally, like how do you shore up you as a brand going forward? And that might mean expanding your skills. That might mean taking courses. That might mean networking. That might mean doing some of that self assessment of who is Elena Luneva? What is that brand as a product? Who would buy you? And have you establish those channels to, when the time comes, keep them warm so that you can position yourself in the market going forward.
Really. Yeah, a lot of reinvention happening out there, happening for me, happening for you, happening for
Yeah,
a lot of folks. So I'm personally very excited about it, but I know that it's not always something that people go into with a lens of opportunity.
exactly.
Where can people find you and keep up with what you're doing?
Great question. You can find me on Substack, so Elena's Letters. You can find me on Maven, so Elena Luneva at maven.com, or on LinkedIn. I'd love to connect.
Thank you so much for your time, Elena. Really enjoyed the conversation and look forward to continuing to follow your journey.
Likewise, thank you, Dina, for inviting me. And you're one of the great people I get to meet and collaborate with. So, really
Thank you.
thankful for the opportunity.
What does a former CPO who went independent and built a thriving business actually look like? That's Elena right now, using AI as her force multiplier so she can focus on the work that only she can do. And that's what Automate Yourself is all about, approaching your career with excitement instead of fear, using automation to build the career you actually want. Go find Elena and start learning. You can find her on Substack at Elena's Letters or check out her courses on Maven. Connect with her on LinkedIn as well. Loved this conversation? You're going to want the full frameworks we send out to our subscribers. Sign up today at newsletter.chillaborate.com. That's chillaborate with 2 L's. I'm Dina Levitan, and thank you for listening to Automate Yourself.